would you certify that the Arizona border is secure?
If I were I were asked that question now in this position, first of all, it's an unfair question, and that's why the Board of Governors.
If that is an unfair question,
well,
then it would be news to the people of the United States and Arizona. If it's unfair to ask a simple question, is the border secure, then we're never going to have the confidence to get it secure, because it is a fair question. And I'll give you my answer. I don't think it is.
Now, it's pretty amazing the former governor of Arizona is not able to answer that question truthfully. And here with reaction on the very latest on the Arizona immigration battle is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Culture of Corruption, Michelle Malkin, and immigration attorney Francisco Hernandez. Welcome, both of you. Francisco, let's go right to this question. I think it's a pretty simple, straightforward question. Would you certify that the Arizona border is secure? Do you think that's an unfair question?
Not being a security expert, but I would say it is secure from terrorists, which is what we're trying to talk about. If we're talking about immigration, we spent millions and millions of dollars on the wall, and then billions on a
You're not answering the question.
A virtual fence. I'm about to answer it, but now we're admitting that it didn't work. So secure from filtration, from undocumented immigration? No, it's probably not secure. No, I would say
undocumented immigration. Does that mean, so if it's not secure, if people can enter this country at any time they wish, that means drug dealers can enter. Wait a minute. If people can enter this country illegally, that means drug dealers can enter the country. That means potentially people that want to bring harm to the American people and criminals. That means they can enter the country. Is that true?
But the drug dealers don't carry the drugs across the desert. They have tunnels and airplanes and cars that they do it. Those aren't the ones that we're addressing here. We're either talking about drug trafficking or undocumented immigration. It's two separate subjects.
Sir, Francisco, I was there where Border Patrol agents actually housed the drugs that they confiscated over the years. All right, let me go to Michelle Malkin.
And unfortunately, we have some Border Patrol agents that are conspiring with the drug traffickers.
You know, I think this is a simple question, Michelle. Are our borders secure? I don't think that's an unfair question. The answer is no.
Question.
It's not an unfair question, Michelle.
No, the answer is actually hell no. Pardon my French. And I think, with all due respect, that Francisco is delusional if he thinks that the border is secure from terrorists, as he just said. We are no more secure from terrorists on the southern or northern borders than we were in September 11th, 2001. And the point is that we're unable to sift through who's here merely to do harm or merely to do the work, so-called, that other Americans won't do, which in itself is a big myth. And I think the fact is, as we've seen this entire debate and debacle unfold with regard to the Arizona immigration enforcement law, that there are two kinds of public figures in American life right now. There are people who pay lip service to border security and immigration enforcement, and there are people who actually step up and do the brave thing despite all of the vilification. And that is the Arizona State Legislature and the GOP Governor Jan Brewer, and I thank them for that. You know, I have no love for either Janet Napolitano or Lindsey Graham, frankly, and I'm very sick not only of the demagoguery on the left and by the country of Mexico and the government there, but also by a lot of Johnny-come-latelys, including John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who are finally understanding the gravity of the situation down there and now paying lip service to save their own jobs.
And I agree, throw all the bums out. The point is, we're letting the tail wag the dog. We're letting this Arizona screaming for government action, for federal government action, for their failure under the Republican administration and the Democrat administration. They've failed to do it. This is an economic issue.
Francisco, the only screaming I see is from those open borders activists who are smearing things on the state capitol, who are accusing the good people of Arizona of being akin to Hitler and fascists in the police state. And as I pointed out in my newspaper column today, I think there's a rank hypocrisy on the part of Mexican officials and their sympathizers accusing Americans of being part of a police state when the immigration policies in Mexico are far more draconian Michigan when they treat illegal aliens than they are in Arizona or anywhere else in America.
You betcha. And thank goodness we live in America. Thank goodness we live in the United States. But you know what?
Let me advance
I'm glad
this.
to hear that.
Let me
and
advance
I
the
hope that
debate
you
here.
condemn that demagoguery as much as I do, Francisco.
Let me advance.
hypocrites, too.
Francisco, hang on a second.
Politicians down there are
Francisco, hang on a
hypocrites,
second.
too.
Let me advance the debate. Because the president used this example of somebody that would go into an ice cream shop and be harassed. Now, if you actually read the bill, it's impossible because clearly the president hasn't, because the bill very specifically states, as I pointed out here, that there must be prior legal contact, meaning there had to be some other law that were broken before one's immigration status could even be questioned by the police department.
Immigration.
Hang on a second.
I'm sorry.
So the president, what he said to the American people in Iowa in this town hall was inaccurate, and it was untrue.
It was.
You agree with that?
It was. I agree, but what he should have said is what my Immigration and Custom Enforcement agent friends call it when local authorities try to enforce federal immigration laws, is they end up doing what's called a MOAD arrest, M-O-A-D, Mexicans out after dark. Really what's happening is you just get a pretext offense. He was speeding because we wanted to pull him over to find out if they're here legally or illegally.
You want to talk about abuse of the law or abuse of law enforcement? That is a whole separate issue, which we could talk about another time. Hang on.
That happens
Here's my
when
question.
you put
millions of
complicated
people,
issues in the hands of untrained folks.
We have millions of people that have not respected American law, American sovereignty. It is wreaking havoc economically on states, on our healthcare system, on hospitals that have to close, on our educational system, on our criminal justice system.
I would disagree with that.
Well, you can't disagree with the facts. So the question is, if people do not respect our laws or sovereignty, do you have a problem arresting them?
Oh, well, look, if somebody's willing to walk across the desert for 10 days so they can go clean our tables and change our linens so they can feed their family in Mexico, you can't blame a human being for that. Those are just hardworking people.
I didn't ask you that. Do you have a problem arresting them?
Yes, I do, absolutely. If they're otherwise hardworking, tax-paying people, absolutely.
Michelle, this is interesting. Because he wants to live in a society, any civil society has got to have a bedrock foundation of the rule of law. And what Francisco is saying is that laws that were passed by Congress and signed by presidents, we should ignore them.
No, that's not the point. The point is...
Now, Francisco, that was for Michelle.
Please. Yes.
Thank you. You know, I admire this about Francisco. He has a wonderful way of saying the most outrageous, disagreeable things in a very agreeable way. And basically what he has articulated is the same philosophy of Reconquista and open borders that many Mexican officials have long advocated for, from Zedillo to Fox to Calderon. They all believe that the territory of Mexico extends beyond its borders. And while they're very vehemently protective for their own southern border, they don't believe in ours.
No, they don't. You know, the American Indians are still pretty miffed about our illegal immigration coming from the East European countries. So
why would you? My last question to you, Francisco:
back.
Why would you not want the laws of the United States of America enforced? Why?
Well, of course you want them enforced, but the point is it's a jobs matter.
No, you don't. You just said you don't want the law enforced against the poor person who's coming here to work. You just said that. Well, fair play then, huh?
Well, you're
basically contradicting yourself, Francisco. You just said you don't want the law enforced against somebody who's just coming here to work. You said it.
If they're coming here to work and we have the jobs and American citizens are not filling them, God bless them. They're trying to feed their families.
That is not part of our immigration law. It's not in our Constitution.
Absolutely,
and it's certainly not how Mexico treats its own illegal aliens.
And you know what?
Well, until then, people should follow the law.
We got to run. Thank you both for being. Thank you both for being with us. We're just out of time, and there is plenty more Hannity still to come. Straight ahead.